Greetings, everyone. Peace and blessings be unto you. I am Minister Jamie Eatman, and I'd like to thank you all for joining me. And did I forget to tell you, I am on the rise. It is indeed a great day, and I'm looking forward to spending this time with you. A little something to kick off the program.
This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism.
And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth.
Greetings, I am Jamie Eatman. Join me Fridays at 8 p.m. for On the Rise movement. Fridays at 8 p.m. for On the Rise movement. Yes, that OTR above my head there, that's what that's for, On the Rise. I'm Minister Jamie Eatman, and I am indeed on the rise. Wanted to share something with you. This month here, the whole month is considered Black History Month. And our topic, let me get my topic up here, is one that I think is very good. For a while I was beginning to feel uncomfortable with it, but I see that I'm not off the mark. I was doing a little research, and I am indeed on the mark. Not only in the fact of celebrating it, but the fact that some of the views, and we're going to talk about those as we move forward. But our topic is the significance of history. When you look at history, history is one of those words where we've done some things, and someone says that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Well, that's my history. I know it to be true, or I know I'm lying, or whatever the case may be. But I want to reference history for a moment. There's some things we do in life, or we get an opportunity to do that others may not, but those things are very significant, and they become a part of our history. And when I say our, I'm not talking Black history as in a race or whatever, but I'm just talking as individuals. And I wanted to share something with you all because you may sometimes you never know who it is that you are dealing with, and you have to always remember who you are, because you may not know who you're dealing with. Sometimes we deal with spirits, not just people, but spirits. And depending on who you are, you'll catch that. But if not, it really doesn't matter. But I want to share something with you all, an experience I had. I actually had this experience, and I'll tell you about it. I want you all to watch this.
And And what that means is this: no matter what my situation is, if I'm 20 to a desk, it doesn't make a difference because my mind is still functioning. My heart is still functioning. And until they fix the desk situation, what are we going to do, Juliana?
Rise. We're gonna rise.
No, that doesn't sound right. Y'all tell Juliana what we're going to do.
Rise.
Oh, that's not good either. Let's try it again. What are we going to do? What's my name? Mr. Eat, but on the rise. And what's your name? Y'all can't talk at the same time, right? Yeah. But you can think the same way. When I say what's your name, just say we are on the rise. What's your name? We are on the rise. What's your name? We are on the rise. What's your name? We are on the rise. Now that sounds like African to me.
Now that was an experience. That was indeed experience, because when you look at that, you all saw one thing, and I was smiling even sitting here now watching it, because that was an experience. You don't have no script. Here you are in a moment, and when you walk into a moment and you call yourself standing for something, and to have it validated in such a manner, it really is significant. That was something from when I visited Ghana. And I want to start off with that because I want to show you another video. Because when it comes down to history, it can be distorted, but yet the person not be lying, because it's really from where a person has been, or what they know, or what it is that they're talking about. And some may know and others may not. I wanted to acknowledge Martha Jones. Peace and blessings be unto you, my sister Martha Jones in the Lord. And this is my actual sister. Love you to death, Tracy Eatman. So as I showed you all that video, I want to show you another one. But as you watch this one, it's a little bit different. When you hear someone say, if I died today, I would have died full. That's sort of like Les Brown. He says, you got to be hungry And I was watching something today, and I really understood what he was saying. But when I show you this next video, I want you all to take a close look at it. And why am I showing you this? Because this is the significance of history. So I'm showing you history, mainly my history, but our history, because these are our people, and that was in Africa. And this next one is also in Africa. No, it's not in Africa, but this is it's about an African. Now, I want to see if I can find this particular video, because this young man, he said some things that are very significant. Let me see if this is it. I hope it's it. If it's not, you can still get to watch it.
The only people that send their brightest and their best to white colleges and white people. We talk about the football players and the black basketball players for dating white women, where you sent them to white colleges and made them be around all white people anyway. The problem is that most black people want to be white in the first place and won't admit it. They don't want to stay around black people when they get their money. They don't want to go to HBCUs. I don't think HBCUs should be a choice. I think that should be the only option that you have. Unless you're trying to go and get something and bring it back to the community. So what I'm saying is $360,000 in your community by each person donating $100 a month. I don't think that's asking a lot. And just to show you that I don't like the system, but to show you that I do think about it. Imagine if in every cop car there was somebody from that community. One of the reasons why for both black and white cops, it's easy to don't have to live with those kids.
All right. Let me get back to my proper screen here. Okay, now, as you watch that video, there's a couple things that some of you all probably noticed right off the bat. My man was wearing a hat. He wasn't wearing a suit. He had gold teeth. He sounded loud, but he said something. And that was more important than how he presented, was actually what he said. He said some things that in the meeting he was probably in, that when they gave the next person the mic, they might have been forgotten. But he addressed some things that pertain to history, not history that has been made, but history that can be made. So when we talk about the significance of history, it becomes very, very important. I was on a program on Wednesday, and we kind of acknowledged that when you talk about Black history the way it's designed, you're talking about that history that's past history. But the significance of history, if you study it and you're calling it history, it has to have come to pass. But there is such a thing as making history. So if we are going to actually study history, we're looking at what someone else has done. But let's not be so busy studying history that we forget to make history, because that's where we are. We're in a position to do that. And that becomes very important because, when someone looks at uh, the time frame that we're living and what they see or do not see, or what they can say or cannot say, it has everything to do with us and not them. It has everything to do with us in this season and not those that came before us. We're responsible for teaching history, yes, and that's what others have done, but we're also responsible for making history, which is very important, and we want to keep that in mind. So as we go forward with the program, just that we're talking about history. I saw my little screen spinning there. I hope I'm not breaking up too much for you all on that end. So I want you to think about something when it comes to history. I can remember, it seemed like it was just yesterday when I was a child in Utah, Alabama. I grew up with my grandmother living across the street from my grandfather. My grandmother on my mother's side, my grandfather on my dad's side. And I was the oldest of six. And there was a lot of things that I learned. And as I went on in life, I didn't realize it, but a lot of those things had a great impact on who I am today. And why am I sharing that? As I just spoke about history and making history, a lot of the history we were able to make has to do with the history that we experienced. And just as we're talking history, we're making history. Our children, or your children, my children, they're going to be able to tell some story about when they came up. And what would that story say? What will it be? Have you all took time to remember from whence you came and from where you are and where you're trying to go? It actually is all tied together. It could be. There's some things, we have some great people that came before us. And when they came before us, they did some great things. And we're in a position to follow suit But many times we're busy with the immediate things that are going on, with the cares of the world. Some of us it's about making money. Some of us it's about paying bills. Some of us it's about getting hours. Some of us it's about trying to take theirs. There's a whole lot of things. But we need to really stop for a moment and, as they say, smell the air. Just smell the roses. Just stop for a moment and think about what I'm saying. We are so busy looking at this life that we're living that we aren't living this life. That probably doesn't make sense, does it? But I got a clip that can bring that home even better than I can, because this individual, unlike me, I'm not struggling for money. I'm still in the process of trying to make it. But this individual had it all, and he left some profound words at a most important point in his life when he was reflecting on his life as he was about to lose it. Y'all listen up and tell me what you think.
Steve Jobs' last words will change your views on life. The billionaire passed away at the age of 56 of pancreatic cancer. These are his last words. I reached the pinnacle of success in the business world. In others' eyes, my life is an epitome of success. However, aside from work, I have little joy. In the end, wealth is only a fact of life that I am accustomed to. At this moment, lying on the sick bed and recalling my whole life, I realize that all the recognition and wealth that I took so much pride in have paled and become meaningless in the face of impending death. You can employ someone to drive the car for you, make money for you, but you cannot have someone to bear the sickness for you. Material things lost can be found, but there is one thing that can never be found when it is lost: life. When a person goes into the operating room, he will realize that there is one book that he has yet to finish reading. Book of Healthy Life. Whichever stage in life we are at right now, with time, we will face the day when the curtain comes down. Treasure love for your family, love for your spouse, love for your friends. Treat yourself well. Cherish others. As we grow older and hence wiser, we slowly realize that wearing a $300 or $30 watch, they both tell the same time. Whether we carry a $300 or $30 wallet or handbag, the amount of money inside is the same. Whether we drive a $150,000 car or a $30,000 car, the road and distance are the same, and we get to the same destination. Whether we drink a bottle of $300 or $10 wine, the hangover is the same. Whether the house we live in is 300 or 3,000 square feet, loneliness is the same. You will realize, your true inner happiness does not come from the material things of this world. Whether you fly first or economy class, if the plane goes down, you go down with it. Therefore, I hope you realize when you have mates, buddies and old friends, brothers and sisters, who you chat with, laugh with, talk with, have sing-songs with, talk about north, south, east, west or heaven and earth. That is true happiness. 5 undeniable facts of life. 1. Don't educate your children to be rich. Educate them to be happy. So, when they grow up, they will know the value of things, not the price. 2. Best awarded words in London: eat your food as your medicines. Otherwise, you have to eat medicines as your food. 3. The ones who love you will never leave you for another, because even if there are 100 reasons to give up, he or she will find one reason to hold on. 4. There is a big difference between a human being and being human. Only a few really understand it. 5. You are loved when you are born. You will be loved when you die. In between, you have to manage. Note, if you just want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk together. 6 best doctors in the world. 1. Sunlight. 2. Rest. 3. Exercise. 4. Diet. 5. Self-confidence. And 6. Friends. Maintain them in all stages of life, and enjoy a healthy life. God loves you.
You know, y'all were probably waiting on that, and there's nothing you can do about it, or the I do too. But I shared that with you because, when it comes to success, Steve Jobs, I listen to young people and they always reference him, or he's well known among them when it comes to business and success. He kind of equates to that. But those words there were really profound. And as I listened to it, I couldn't have worded it better. I probably couldn't have even worded it as well, but it was well worth hearing. So I wanted to share that with you. I was referring to a video earlier. I showed you the one about the classroom, and I'm going to show you. It'll be 3 videos really about Africa. Actually, 2 about Africa and 1 about an African. And I can't stress the significance of this because, when someone talks about Black history, you even could even be in a meeting and someone is talking about how important Black history is. But the question really becomes, what are they doing during that time frame? And even beyond that time frame, we really get to a point where history has to become history because people are like threads there, and life is like a garment, and we're all connected somehow, and somehow if we keep going with the individuality, we'll never really get to the point where we have to move forward. I like what he said there. If you really want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk together. You can look at that from a family perspective. You can look at that from a business perspective. You can look at that from a life perspective. Regardless of how you look at it, those words hold true. And as you watch this other video here, this is something, and I'll tell you about it when it's done. Just take a look. Okay. Now, if you watched that, you heard 2 things. You heard 2 different languages. You saw 2 different cultures, and you saw something going on there that required a certain unity in order for it to happen. Though that happened way over there in Africa, and it was something that was done, an experience that will last a lifetime. But there's nothing that prevents something like that from occurring every day in our lives. We have to really stretch ourselves. For me to be one, it's been so long since I danced or went through emotion like that, but I enjoyed that experience. And the things that we go through, they need to have some value to us. I will never forget that moment. It spoke volume to me. So shared that because we're talking about history. And when you look at what makes history, history isn't made, at the end of the year when someone sits down and come up with what is going to be history. History is made with every moment of our lives. And when it comes down to sharing it, there's history people will never know, but you'll know. It's like when a family member dies. To the world, their co-workers may not even take off to come to the funeral, but there's somebody that that person has impacted and they have imparted something to them that that person will take with them for a mighty long time. So what I'm saying by that, or what I'm getting at with that, is we're constantly making history. Everything that we're doing is influencing somebody's life. I can imagine the young lady. There was a mother there. I'll never forget her. And as we were done, it was like we had like this little solo moment, and she had a baby on her back. And I can imagine her, let's say 20 years from that moment, not remembering, but telling the baby that before you were able to walk, we danced. Not with an American, because over there they'd probably say a white man. That's actually what they refer to us as black people from the U.S. as white man, or some areas they did. But when that child hears that, that means something. And not to mention what it meant to her, and even more important, what it means to me. What I'm saying is history is filled with moments, and we are constantly in the history making business. And if we keep that in mind and be more accountable and purposeful in the things that we are doing, we will be able to accomplish a lot more. There'll be someone that will be in a position to make a decision or do something that will reflect upon the history that they are aware of. And when they reflect on that history, it becomes significant. And it's very important that we understand it and begin to know it. I want to kind of shift gears here for a moment. You know, I don't know about you all, but I've heard the question before: why did they pick the shortest month of them all to have Black History Month? And some people, would answer that with that same phrase, because it's the shortest month. But I learned something, and the something that I learned from watching this video. I was looking for some information, and as I found it, it was an interview that was being done, and there was some very significant things that came out. I want you all to listen to this video. I love to critique things, but before I can critique it, I need for you to watch it. And here it goes.
Cyrus, Executive Director.
Okay, let's go.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of UDC Forum. I'm Dr. Sandra Jowers Barber, Assistant Professor of History at the University of the District of Columbia, and your host. The Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, now called the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, was founded by Dr. Carter G. Woodson in 1915 in response to the lack of information on the accomplishments of African Americans. Dr. Woodson, who died in 1950, didn't start his formal education until he was 20 years old. From that late academic beginning, he went on to become the second African American to earn a PhD from Harvard University. He established Negro History Week in 1926, and 50 years later in 1976, that week became a month-long celebration that today is supported nationally and internationally. With me today to discuss the significance and ongoing importance of the association is Sylvia Y. Cyrus, Executive Director of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Jowers Barber.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm going to start with that question that students and everyone else ask, or the statement they make. Why did they give us the shortest month in the year to have African American history?
And I'm going to respond with my canned answer, which is, what have they ever given you? February became Black History Month in part because of the association, but most importantly because Dr. Carter G. Woodson decided that it was time to stop celebrating individuals as it related to our history. We did not just start in 1926 with the beginning of Negro History Week, celebrating African Americans in history. After the Civil War, African Americans celebrated Frederick Douglass's birthday and Abraham Lincoln's birthday. And when Dr. Woodson saw that these types of celebrations were beginning, he said it's time to stop and look at the accomplishments of our people as a whole. And so he picked the week between the birthday of Abraham Lincoln, the president, which was February 12th, and the date that Frederick Douglass celebrated as his birthday, which was February the 14th. He started Negro History Week in 1926, and then in 1976, this association went to the world and said, a week is not enough. And so that is how February was created by us.
Oh, I like that. Now I'll be able to tell my students to calm down, and it was a selection of Dr. Carter G. Woodson.
Absolutely.
How is the association changing with the times? Because there's this ongoing question of the need for an association that's directed to African American history. Isn't the history out there now?
It's kind of interesting that people say that because Black people are still making history. And so we can't keep up with all of the history that's being made in publications and scholarly articles and even coloring books. So it takes an organization like ASALA, which is how we pronounce our acronym, ASALA, to promote, to create, to disseminate the contributions of African Americans, not just here in America, but across the world. We are still extremely relevant, and especially in these days when individuals talk about America being post-racial, we know that that's not the case. That it, again, was Dr. Woodson and this association that really began the conversations of multiculturalism. So we're very relevant, and we need everyone to be a part of what we do to promote our history.
And how do you do that? How do you promote and disseminate the information?
Well, there are a couple of different ways that we do it. We have a scholarly conference, which is held each year in the fall. And we ask scholars and lay folks who do their history to come and present at that conference so that new scholarship can be shared. From that conference and from other work, we publish the Journal of African American History. Dr. V.P. Franklin is the editor, and that is the premier scholarly journal. It is the first journal that was created to promote our history. And in addition, we have non-academic events that everyone can be a part of. We have a wonderful Black History Month luncheon that's held in February each year, and there we celebrate the accomplishments of African Americans. We always have a dynamic speaker who comes and shares with us information about our annual Black History theme. So our publications and our events and our membership groups, like branches. We have branches that are across this country where groups of individuals get together and plan programs, study local history, share that information with school districts and in the community. So there are a lot of different ways that we maintain the mission of the association.
Is there a special way that you reach out to young people? Is there an intentional focus on getting them involved?
Absolutely. Even though we understand that for you to really appreciate history, you really have to have a few years under your belt. And we do, hear from students sometimes that they say, well, is history just about dead people? Well, of course it's not. And the more that we engage school children, whether it be in the public schools or charter schools or even Sunday schools, the better that there's an understanding among our young people that they are standing on the shoulders of great African Americans whose place they must take. And so they really, really respond to it. We also work very hard and very heavily in the HBCU community and the college community. And our students there, even if they're not history majors or African American study majors, they could be journalism majors or in other areas of arts and sciences who get involved in the history and are really encouraged by it and inspired by it.
You talked about school teachers and churches. Wasn't that the initial focus and the avenues that Dr. Woodson used to disseminate the information?
Absolutely. When you think about when this association was started in 1915, you could count the number of PhDs on your hand with a few fingers missing. And so it was important to Dr. Woodson to make sure that the scholars got that information into the local community through churches and school groups and individuals who had their own organizations. So being connected to the community was always very important to Dr. Woodson as it is to the association today.
Okay, we're going to stop there. And as you notice with that dialogue, they touched on some very important things. They touched on what Dr. Wilson did in that day and what they're doing to reach, I think she used the term youth or children today. But in any case, she gave a pretty good answer about the things that they were doing. But you notice when she used the term multicultural, still being relevant, in case you all didn't catch that, that was alluding to the fact of some questions that some have. And even as I look at Black history, I have comments on it as well, because now that we're at the full month, um, and we look at Black history as to what we are or not learning, it's obvious that a month isn't going to be enough time to get it done, or you spend a whole year trying to plan a month, or you plan your history the whole year. So the organization goes about doing some things year round, and this just happened to be an interview that was done for the month. It's a Sala, I think it was ASHALA, or something close to that, but it's Asala, and their intent is to make sure that our history is recorded, not the history as in we already know, but they are actually catching things right now. It made me think about a brother in Alabama, Jerry Brown. I spoke with him, and he was telling me some of the things that he had experienced as a young man, dating back to Dr. King's time. Actually, he had made reference to his dad, and his dad being an activist, and some of the things he experienced. They're the type of things that we want to get those things recorded while my brother is still alive. We don't want him taking that history to the grave with him. Some of the things he said, I was very encouraged by, because it happened, one, in my hometown, and it happened, two, to meet someone that it can actually give me that point of reference, that they personally were involved in something of that significance or something that great. So I know that from his perspective, if only from his perspective, that isn't recorded anywhere yet, because he haven't told his story. So he has a story to tell, and we all do. It's just a matter of knowing the significance of what it is that we are living. We aren't just living, we are making history. We aren't just the people that are studying history, we're making history. And someday someone is going to reference your history. If you remember the words of Dr. King, whatever you're doing, be the best at whatever you are, because somebody is going to tell your story. And if people want to reference a group, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. They're not going to talk about that person that shined the brightest. They're not going to talk about that person that was the most vocal. They're going to talk about that weak link, because that's the way they may want to define that group. So we all owe it to be the best at whatever we can. That spelling is ASH. Let me say it again. ASALH. ASALH. Asala. That's the name of that organization. Going to shift gears again. Right now, I want to talk about something that's very important, and it's history, not so much black or white, but this is history. When things happen, they happen so quickly. Sometimes it catches people off guard. Most people probably still think, or might have heard, or might not have heard, that at one point our money was backed by the gold system. And because of what was going on, and a president wanting to make his term easier, and probably his life as well, he detached the gold from the money, which is why we have this deficit of money that's so high, because it's not backed by anything, and we can just keep printing and printing and printing. And I mentioned that because when that happened, probably very few were informed. But there's something else that's going on now that's quite similar. And I wanted to share that with you. It concerns the digital dollar. Why am I mentioning that now? Because, as I said, history is significant. So as you watch this, give it some thought. I only pulled 2 minutes of it, and the 2 minutes I thought were relevant to what I'm wanting to talk about.
of Chairman Xi. Now, can you imagine the Dems having that kind of... Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me for today's talk. There's an urgent situation unfolding in America, and today I'll unveil all the unnerving details. So let's get started with a critical question. Where were you on March 9th, 2022, when President Biden signed the death warrant on American freedom? On that day, in a hush ceremony at the White House, without the approval of Congress, the states, or the American people, Biden signed into law Executive Order 14067. Buried in his order are a few paragraphs titled Section 4. The language in Section 4 makes Order 14067 the most treacherous act by a sitting president in the history of our republic, because Section 4 sets the stage for legal government surveillance of all U.S. citizens, total control over your bank accounts and purchases, and the ability to silence all dissenting voices for good. In this new war on freedom, the Dems aren't coming for your guns. No, they're thinking much bigger than that. They're coming for your money. And it's already started. Hi, my name is Jim Rickards. I'm a former advisor to the Pentagon, the White House, Congress, the CIA, and the Department of Defense. I'm also an attorney, investment banker, and author of 7 books on currencies and international economics. When places like Fox, CNBC, or Bloomberg want to know what's about to shake up the global economy, they call me. Most of all, like you, I'm a proud American patriot. The disturbing predictions you're about to see are based on my independent research and my contacts in the intelligence community. I've never made this kind of public announcement before, but it's my duty to pull the alarm. This is what I believe Section 4 of Biden's order means for all Americans. The U.S. dollar will be made obsolete. Soon your cash will be confiscated or will simply be worthless paper. The cash currency we have now will be replaced with a new programmable digital token. But the truth is, few outside the deep state recognize Biden's move for what it really is. If my predictions are correct, this is so much more sinister than simply replacing the cash dollar with a new digitized version. Friend, this new currency will allow for total control of all American citizens, because every digital dollar will be programmed by the government. That means they will be able to turn on or turn off your money at will.
Okay, so as you all listen to that, that could be one of those individuals that are out there that put something out to promote their agenda. And most people, when they tell you something, there's a saying, a dog only brings you a bone when he wants you to put some meat on it. Well, in his case, the meat is he's selling a package to tell people how to save their money or store their money before this occurs. And the reason it's important is because usually when people come with those type of agendas, there is something that's coming down to shoot. If you remember with Bitcoin, there were those rich people that were telling you how much it would get up to. It didn't get as high as they said, but it is still supposed to be rebounding. But most were very surprised at how it did go. But I'm sharing this because there's talk of a digital dollar. And this digital dollar has nothing to do with cryptocurrency. This is a means where the government will have the money, and as he said, the ability to turn it on and off. Why is that important? Because when you look at control, even the Bible speaks of a day when, without a certain mark in your hand or your head, you wouldn't be able to buy or sell. Well, imagine if your money is digital and somebody turned your money off. It's like going to the store and leaving your wallet at home. Now, some might say, well, how can they do away with the dollars and you still have dollars? I'm going to take all my money out the bank. How much sense does that make? If you think about what he just said, the dollar will become um, worthless. So the less you have in the bank to be converted to digital, the less money you're going to have, period. And if you have it all at home under the mattress and it's like if you've ever been to a foreign country or maybe a fair, and they had those tickets were only good at the fair. So if ever they were to do something of that nature, it could not help but impact the people, the population. So we want to be wise to that. And there, if you want to go and look that up, I think it was Executive Order 14067. I've spoke with other people that were actually doing some things, and they didn't volunteer the information. But when I mentioned that, what they informed me was that yes, the government consulted with people that were programmers, that people that actually knew about Bitcoin and all this other stuff to come up with their digital dollar. So while it may operate somewhat the same, It isn't the exact same. As a matter of fact, it's comparative to having a credit card that someone can turn off, but they couldn't take the money out of your wallet. Well, if you had another form of crypto, even though they might have turned off your digital dollar, they couldn't turn off your crypto. So, am I talking up crypto? Yes, because there's when they said the drug dealers were using it for funds and all that. Well, now they're coming and they've, in a sense, using the same system that they claimed the drug dealers was doing, and they're taking advantage of it, and they're taking it a step farther, because what was at one point where no one knew your business because they didn't have your keys or your account keys, the government is going to have that. Anyone that can turn on or turn off has total control. Big difference. Just wanted to share that video with you all. And next thing I want to talk about is social media. Everybody is on social media nowadays. And when you look at social media, it's really gotten out of hand. If you can remember, depending on your age, you may not be able to remember. But there was a point when I remember when they first came up with, I think it was HBO. Prior to that, you didn't see much of anything that was too sexually oriented. Not that I remember. But when they came up with HBO, home box office, supposedly it was one of those things at night. They showed a different kind of programming. But it was restricted to the hour. And it's gotten to the point where it's grown from there to the point today where they literally can show almost any or everything. If you think about the cartoons we used to watch, quite different. Nowadays, when you look at what they're selling or buying, it's almost like it's already nude. So, and TV is the same way. The more sexier the person is, the more you see them on the screen. The less they have on, the more popular it becomes. If you think about social media and the videos that they want to suggest to you, if you go in, you can't even look at your videos now on Facebook without them offering you friend suggestions. And look at the number of people who seem to think that the best thing they got going for them is their body. So social media, if you can imagine that as a grown woman, you're I guess let's say anywhere from 25 up, and you're looking at that. That's your discretion. But what if you're younger than that? What if you're a teen or preteen and you're seeing things like that? And not only are you seeing that, ladies, men, but you yourself are doing that. You're carrying yourself in that same manner. You're doing that because it's popular. You're doing that because it's becoming so acceptable. Can you imagine when you was coming up the thought of going out of your house in your pajamas? Imagine that, out of your house in your pajamas to go anywhere. That didn't happen. But now not only does it happen, it's thought to be, when a person does that, sometimes they seem to think that they are really doing something that nobody else can do. They don't look at it as nobody else would, or they might have values that differ. But I'm sharing all that for this next video I'm about to show you. When you look at the things that are going on and the amount of time our children spend on social media, and sad to say, it's not even just our children, it's we as adults. But depending on what you're doing, it can be productive. And then again, it may not. But I want to share something with you that's going on in New York. The mayor there, he's turning around and he's attempting to sue some of the high profile individuals in social media. And I'm going to let you all hear the video, and I'll give you a little bit more detail.
Because what I'm seeing now in my observations, particularly in the area of violence, and Dr. Fassan could probably talk about it in the area of mental health issues, social media is probably in the top 1 or 2. As I stated, when we had an argument with someone on the block, it stayed on the block. Now it spreads at a rapid pace. The number of disputes that turn physical and sometimes deadly comes from someone disrespected me on social media. someone says something inappropriate to my friend or love interest. There's so much, if you were to speak with young people who are caught up in violence, you are going to find a nexus somewhere with social media. It has become the feeder of what has caused some of these actions. Earlier in the administration, we lost a young man who was the beat on drill music, and it turned into violence. His dad and I have communicated regularly, but it all stemmed from that. These disputes that go back and forth that then escalate to violence. And so I think that when it comes down to violence, I think it's up in the top 1 or 2 positions.
Now he's talking about social media and how it impacts violence and the things that potentially causes it. In the top 1 or 2 is social media. Most would probably argue that or try to dispute that, but I'm sure that there's some statistical information that he's going to be utilizing to make his case. But I want you to think for a moment. Social media has this way of making people heard. And if people are oppositional for whatever reason, social media becomes the platform. And I have a second video. I have it for 2 reasons, because that mayor is a black mayor, man of color, and social media. He went to that. He used it. I'm going to show you how everything in life is a double-edged sword. For those who realize that there's a lot of productivity with the internet. With the proper discretion is good, but if you're not monitoring it, he just spoke, and that was a good thing, and he seems to be doing a great task, possibly impacting the lives of the youth. But he used social media to do it, and I'm stressing that because watch this next video. This same person that came behind him is also using social media, and look at the difference in the two.
All right, as outrage grows over New York City Mayor Eric Adams handing out free prepaid debit cards to illegal immigrants and the 180 some odd million that he's now allocating towards, more hotel rooms, the mayor decided to set the record straight today at a hearing in Albany and let the world know that's exactly what he's doing. Take a look.
There's one thing I learned in New York. New Yorkers are very opinionated, and they share their thoughts. And so first we want to dismiss the misinformation. We're not giving people American Express cards. We found that the food delivery service that we set up during the emergency, we could find a better way to do it in our belief that we want to cut 20% of the migrant costs. So we have a pilot project with 500 people that we are giving them a food card. So instead of a debit card, instead of having to deliver food and have people eat food that we were seeing waste in food, they're now able to get their own food that is going to be spent $12 a day.
And 500 people get 53 million. That's not all. A couple of days ago, Adams decided that it was a good time to brag about his staff's diversity. He did it in his own way. Take a look.
Stand up, stand up. They need to see you. Deputy Mayor Williams Isom, Deputy Mayor Mira Josie, Deputy Mayor Almazar, Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer. Have you ever seen this much chocolate leading the city of New York? And then go down the line. Look who's here. This is representative of the city. That's why people are hating on me.
Oh, that's why the Fannie Willis defense. Anyway, joining us live, he's on the streets of New York City. Former mayoral candidate Curtis Sliwa is with us. He likes chocolate over vanilla. It sounds a little like Louis Farrakhan to me there. $53 million in debit cards for 500 people, on top of $180 million for more hotel rooms in New York, on top of the $1 billion that Biden has given people that enter our country illegally. And we saw what happened to the people on tape beating the hell out of 2 police officers. Curtis, things getting better in New York City?
Absolutely not. In fact, that's why I'm his #1 hater. Join the Curtis Lewa Haters Club of Eric Adams, who is single-handedly destroying this city by giving illegal aliens everything. They arrive in our city, imagine. You check into your hotel, you get concierge service, and bam, you get a $1,000 debit card that you can use for the whole month. And you get more money than any veteran, any homeless person, any emotionally disturbed person in New York City gets. That's an absolute outrage. And this mayor just doesn't seem to get it. He takes care of the illegal aliens and forsakes his own people, especially the African-American poor and impoverished who elected him mayor of the city of New York over me, Curtis Lewa.
Yeah. Well, by the way, if you divide 53 million by 500, that's a $106,000 debit card. Not a bad deal. I don't think they're giving them to vets that are homeless in New York City. Not that I've heard, Curtis.
Well, in fact, our guys have just taken down one of the migrant guys right here on the corner, 42nd and 7th, while all this is
Can you pan the camera?
They've taken over. They've taken over. You'd like the camera over there if at all possible.
Yep. You got your key open, guys.
He is out of control. Out of control.
So we're here for pattern 150.
I shared that video because I wanted you to see, the same thing that you use in one instance can be used against you in the next. It's almost like that was a Donald Trump and a Biden issue, because, and it's interesting that that was Fox News, but how they actually did not interview him, but criticized him. They literally interviewed his opponent. If this guy was running for office, that would probably cost him a good deal of money to get that type advertisement. But they did it seemingly free of charge, and they did it with a bias. So why am I showing you that? Because I'm talking about history. We need to pay attention to some things. Even the numbers, when the guy said it was a pilot program and what equates to $12 a day, doesn't add up to be the numbers that he projected. But if you're not listening, you don't know that there might be some discrepancy. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying he's right, but I know how to do math. And maybe I heard it wrong, but there's some accountability that comes with history. And when people don't tell your story properly, they can color you bias. If you can imagine a color book, people can color you the way they choose. So when a person color you a certain way, they're painting you that way for a reason. And it's clearly, if you remember the point about the chocolate versus the vanilla, was it wise of that guy to make that comment? For the setting that he was in and what he wanted to convey, it worked. But was it wisdom? Probably not, because anything you say, as they say, can and will be used against you. That's not just in a court of law, that's in life, period. So I'm sure he's probably seen that video. I'm probably wishing he could take that back. But, some things, when you put them out there, they're out there. You just have to go with them from that point forward. So all the things I've shared with you, I brought some things with you to kind of address history. And I really want you to see that the most important person as it pertains to history, it isn't those who are basically have made history in the past. It's those who are today responsible and charged with that. If you don't teach it or convey it, there's no way it will be known. And those who don't know history, they are apt to repeat it. So what that means is this: if we don't teach our history, if we wait that little 28 days and we wait for that one program, there's only so much you can put into that program. And one of my problems with it, or my ideas concerning history, is that history needs to teach something. It isn't just what happened, or it shouldn't be just what was done. It needs to actually teach or say something. And if it doesn't teach or say something, it's like what they well, they don't do it anymore. A lot of companies used to run commercials, and they would actually highlight someone from Black history. And whoever they chose, I don't know how they chose them or why, but they did, and thank God they did, because that was something positive that was being done. But I don't even know if they do that anymore. Maybe it's not a sense of obligation, or maybe there's not enough people that have a problem with it, they aren't doing it, or maybe there's nobody making some of the demands and everything that was made earlier. But we need to realize that when it comes down to history, it isn't just a matter of our history, it's history, period. And if history is somehow distorted, that means that we have some ignorant people because they don't know the truth. And if we have some people that are not uh, defining or redefining history, because when you walk up and something happens, and you as a man or a father, you does something that your child questioned, if you don't take time to explain how you got to that person didn't live what you lived. They may not know how to surmise the actions that you just did. But explained properly, that might very well be the actions that they adopt. So when it comes to history, there's a lot there. There's a lot that needs to be passed on. Even the way we look at a particular topic, speak to a thing, all those things are important. And we need to, if you're not being asked questions, start to explain. There was a graphics I had. Let me see if I can find it. And I really liked it. I pulled it because it didn't say much, and you can be looked at it as a negative or a positive. I chose to look at it as a negative. I mean, as a positive, because of what it depicted for me. If I can find that, I guess I have to describe it to you. But what it was a man, a father, holding his son. And he said to his son, he said, "Son, be careful." And the writing says that the son says, "You be careful. I'm following in your footsteps." Do y'all get that? He tells the son to be careful. And the son says, "You be careful. I'm following in your footsteps." That means that what we're doing today is going to determine where or the path that the person comes behind us take. Even the difficulty they have in taking it. If we actually walk a path, then they have a choice to choose that path. Now, if they choose another path, that's okay, their choice. But we want to make sure that we've at least somewhat they have a path, a beaten path, that that it is recognizable. I pray something has been said that's been of some benefit to you. And we were talking about the significance of history. And it is not going to get any less valuable. As a matter of fact, it's going to prove to be even more valuable as we move forward. There's all this talk of AI and the jobs it's going to replace and this and that. When people are put in situations that they have in common, they're going to do one or two things. They're either going to turn on each other, or they're going to work together. They'll set that crab mindset, or they're going to rise above it. So as we move forward, hopefully we'll do more rising than we'll do crabbing. I want to leave you all with this song here, and it asks a very important question. Very, very important question. I want to give you the full length song. I see the little short version of it. We may have to go with that. But in any case, well, time-wise, it'll be good. And it asks a question.
This generation
and turn their hearts to our Father which art in heaven, and turn their hearts to our Father, Lord of creation. it be you?
Tell me who, tell me who, will it be you?
Will it be you?
Will it be you?
Will it be you?
Tell me who, will it be you?
Will it be you?
Tell me who,
Tell me who?
tell me who,
Tell me who?
will it be you?
Will it be?
There's no need to us to even discuss it. It doesn't have to be you or me. It can be us. We can do this, and it's easier to do when we do it together. Let's rise. I'm Minister Jamie Eatman, and I am on the rise. I hope to see you all next Friday, 8 p.m. Thank you. Peace and blessings.